Hajar from Love is Blind Habibi had a fascinating interview with Hikmat, and she said something rather fascinating. She said the reason the Dusty Boys and the girls hated on Noor was because both she and Noor were used to going to all those events as influencers and also had great careers that could afford them nice restaurants, nice places, and for them, they now go out to a restaurant and get a table full for dinner all on their own. Hajar made a fascinating point that envy provokes people when a lady states her standards, whereas when Asma said she wanted someone fit, no one cared.
هاجموا على أفكار نور لأنه أنتكم صحبة مع شخص واحد ما بيحبها لنور.
مين هو هالشخص؟ شفيع؟
اللي معه
بحبها الزلمة بحبها.
ما في حب وغرام فيك.
طب ما هيك عم نعمل جادجمنت؟
ما بحب المنافقين. نو.
ATM ماشين أنت عم بتدوري على مصاري صح؟
الشخص لازم يكون 100% بروفايدر. لازم يكون left رايت.
أوكي.
لا حبيبي تشيل اقعد.
Totally against إنه the man has to provide 100%.
So I have a spicy story that I promised, and that is beneath Safa's pick-me video about how women should split the bill 50-50, which is utterly ridiculous. I saw a very silly comment in favor of 50-50, putting all other women down.
Ironically, the more you agree and try to please others, the less you are valued. Here's an explanation from a psychological angle. Instead of being liked and appreciated for being nice, you'll often end up taken for granted and undervalued, and people might care less about your opinions or how they treat you. That's not because people are bad. We all tend to do that without noticing, and here are the main reasons why. Number one, there's a psychological principle called decreased scarcity effect, proving that people stop appreciating what's easily accessible and cheap, but they perceive what's rare, hard to find and expensive as more valuable. So if someone is always available and agreeable, their time, efforts and opinions will lose its value.
إذا بنت حست بنت أحلى منها تكرهها. إذا شاب بنت رفضته بيصير بده يتهجم عليها وبده يوطي من قيمتها.
أنت كسيدة بدك تعطي كمان بالمقابل.
البنت مش من واجبها تقدم ولا أي شيء للشاب قبل ما يصير في علاقة.
كثير شايفة حالك.
أنت كرجال تقليدي وين دورك؟ To be a provider. تكون عن جد رجال بمعنى الكلمة.
Or a player.
Player, yeah. And me, I'm too toxic. I'm being honest.
I will never in my life rely on a man.
I told her she look for an ATM machine. She get rejected.
Totally against إنه the man has to provide 100%.
And that is beneath Safa's pick-me video about how women should split the bill 50-50, which is... I saw a very silly comment by a big pick-me. I was intrigued, and I gave her statistics why, 50-50 might be beautiful in theory, but in reality, 50-50 ends up being 30-70, right? Where women do more of the housework and men have more leisure time. In fact, it's about, it's said at best 130 hours a year men have more leisure and women have more housework. And then once you add the child, there is childcare. Also, of course, you have all the beauty labor, right? So gentlemen expect you to stay thin, right? And women also to have makeup, go to the gym, look beautiful, all these expectations. My husband, right, for his self-care, he has his razor. He doesn't buy new one. He has this, right? So how much does he spend on self-care, right? On clothes, okay, cashmere, merino, wool sweaters eventually expire, but they last because they're good quality. I mean, he buys a suit and has it for years. For me, I have Botox, skincare, all sorts of things, my hair, there's all these hair products that I need that are specialized, laser, all sorts of things, laser facials, all sorts of things. Of course, my gym membership, right? Since my husband pays for everything, I don't mind that he expects me to go to the gym, right? If he pays for the gym, he can expect me to go. If he pays for my makeup, he can expect me to wear it. If he doesn't, he has no say. I was intrigued by this 50-50 activist, Zara, with, an Arab-looking name, right? Kind of an Arab-looking appearance. So I clicked on her profile. Oh my goodness.
Just one verse in that a lot of extremisms did not do their research or did not look into the context. The comment section or my DMs being filled with people going like, oh, you're gonna burn in hell. Like, you would think that adults who have studied primary school at least would know.
How socially awkward. No wonder. And then I noticed everyone's, in the comments, it was the most socially awkward women and broke dusty losers, dusty gentlemen, and women with no social game. She was a kind of a dweeby nerd who probably assembles computers in a basement. And then I looked at her biography and I was right. She was so socially awkward. I'm autistic, and if I am trying hard to be merciful and not laugh, because I know how it is difficult for us neurodiverse people. It's serious, right? She explains it all right here.
Muslims, and quite literally tell us we're the ones making ourselves a victim, and being an ex-Muslim is our entire personality. That verse.
Darling, if being a victim is your entire personality, you're a loser, and no one cares what you have to say. So I gave my facts and logic, and she personally attacked me and said, my Instagram is shallow. I said, my Instagram is healed. It's not trauma dumping on the world. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a stylist, and I'm only on Instagram and social media to promote my services. Otherwise, I would not be on social media in the first place because I have a life. She insulted me because of my social intelligence and thought I was dumb because I was pretty, but she has the social intelligence of a box of rocks. She has absolutely no self-awareness, and this is so common among 50-50 feminists. They have no idea how they come across, and they love to bully other women that they think this is saving them, when in reality it's their envy. And then of course they accuse everyone being jealous of them being this single cat lady, or being a free escort, free chef, free maid, right? Half the bills paid to some dusty loser. She had so much anger in her and vile passive aggression. I started really, wondering where it came from. I mean, this nerdy dweeb goes into all these technical arguments how the Quran is not perfect. But are you perfect attacking other women personally for having a different opinion than you? And then she also is misogynist and thinks lowly of women, depriving us of agency. So she called me jealous because, my husband, she alleges, does not want to do housework. This is how stupid she is. I mean socially, right? And, being autistic, I understood I was not very intelligent socially, so I read books on psychology, saw therapists, did all these things, did all the work to understand how humans interact. My husband actually wants to cook. He's a better cook. He wants to help with the housework. I just don't let him. Why? Because my husband pays all my bills. But if he pays all my bills, then does half the housework, right? And then he does half the cooking, he'll ask, this is not fair. This is, I'm doing everything. And the only thing you're doing is going to the gym, which is nice. But maybe you should go to work. I know that, I didn't want to go to work and him go to work, but then do most of the housework, cooking, and then plus being beautiful. This is important. He married a beauty queen. She's an extremely prominent ex-Muslim activist who opens up for Richard Dawkins, so I thought it was so intriguing that she engaged in a troll war for 3 days. I opened up her socially awkward, angry nerding videos on being an ex-Muslim. So lame, she doesn't have a life and doesn't have a clue. No wonder she attacked Noor, because she was jealous of Noor. Zara is another Dunya 2.0. She is so desperate to be picked by Westerners that she doesn't get any respect. And she's so desperate, for throwing her whole culture under the bus in hopes of getting a white sausage, right? Her whole profile is a study in being a desperate pick-me loser who's really trying too hard to be liked by Sweden, the country she immigrated to. And she attacks and then cries victim, so she went to my profile, personally attacked me for being an entrepreneur, okay, and called that shallow. Making being a victim your whole entire personality not having a life is shallow. If you're such a feminist, what is wrong with a housewife who wants to earn more income, right? Wouldn't you say that makes women less likely to be oppressed? So, why go after this? My Instagram clearly says my profession, that I'm a stylist, right? I was so intrigued why such a prominent public figure would personally insult me and try to attack me for 3 days. And when she insulted me for being an entrepreneur, I then reciprocated, right? I then checked her social media and I saw that, she was insulting my entire religion, right? So I made some comments, right? I said the reality is no one cares about the nerding of the inner details. Imagine what would happen in Western countries if someone wants to destroy the welfare state and destroy healthcare, right? And destroy any access for disabled people. This would cause a lot of anger. Now in America, we saw with the insurance fraud, right? Insurance companies in America do not give access to healthcare that people pay for 1 out of 3 times, right? And usually that's when a person has cancer or something serious. Luigi unalived the United Healthcare CEO, right? So that does not make Luigi oppressive. The fact is, Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about the social utility of religion, right? That religion actually provides access for healthcare, for welfare, and basically provides a rudimentary welfare state in developing countries that are too corrupt to be able to have a welfare state of their own. Removing religion in many developing nations would ensure that people would be poor and starved to death. Most importantly, traditional religion prevents pygmies like Dunya depriving the rest of us of the rights of a provider and protector. When you remove religion, pygmies turn the society into a race to the bottom. And form a model, so he wants me to keep up my appearance and he pays for it, right? But that means I have to put the effort and time into it that if I'm working I could not, right? And then that would cause resentment if I balloon, right? And if I let my face go and become super wrinkly and saggy and all of this, I'm in my 40s, right? I look decent for my age. But if I look older than my age because I don't have the time, because in addition to office hours and working, a bit cooking a bit more, cleaning a bit more, as women we're more particular. This is why women end up, we end up cleaning more and cooking more because we're more fussy and we like things done a certain way. And you don't want to nag, you don't want to tell him how to do it, so you end up doing it. And for men, it's better done than perfect. I'm not an idiot, I understand social contract. If I ask my husband to contribute half the domestic labor, he's a human being, and after a while, he'll resent me for being unfair, to expect him to do all the external work labor outside the home and then half the labor inside the home. And it's like 75, 25, right? Okay, if I also go to the gym and wear makeup and all that, 70, 30, but still he would resent that. I was very intrigued with Dunya and Safa's most passionate defender. Where did this come from? I noticed in her photos there was such a decay, so she's younger than me, and she was looking older and older, and she looked really fresh, and then she kept looking older and older and older. As in worn out, right? She's triggered, her whole entire Instagram and presence is all about trauma dumping and frankly looks like a mess. Which is what 50-50 women look like, but they have no self-awareness. So I prodded her to find out more about her relationship, to see where it came from. So of course, she's a free escort. She's a volunteer prostitute, volunteer chef, volunteer maid, all this for 4 years, no ring. And her boyfriend or partner absolutely hates her. Why does he hate her? So they were together when she was 28 and she's 32. You see, when the clock is ticking so loud, she hit 30 and there was no ring. At 30, you're 28 up to 30, there was no engagement ring. There still is no ring. He hates her, absolutely hates her. She might be brilliant with computers, but her EQ is lower than room temperature. If your boyfriend loves you, he will give you a ring in a year, 1.5 maximum, 2, if you're in university maybe. Generally, gentlemen know within the first few dates whether or not you're their wife. And then they propose. Some within 3 months, some within half a year, some within a year. Some a year and a half, but 2 is already pushing it. Because why is marriage so important to gentlemen? Because gentlemen believe that you're single until married, right? And especially engaged. So if you don't have a ring on your finger, you're fair game. If someone steals another man's girlfriend, it's not a big deal among gentlemen. The exception is if you're close friends and you sleep with your friend's ex shortly after the breakup. That's not considered, bro code. I overheard a group of friends talking, and one young lad said he liked this girl, and his female friend said, but she has a boyfriend. And the gentleman in the group says, so what? The boyfriend is not a fiancé, it's not a husband, it doesn't mean anything. Did her boyfriend propose to her? No, so he doesn't really care about her, so she's fair game. The young women in the group were shocked about how the boys talked. The young gentleman was interested where his crush could hang it out so that he could have opportunities to seduce her. Also, gentlemen fake relationships to get laid. So, if he loves you and it's a genuine relationship, within a year he will make sure that no one else would go after you. Once I started wearing my engagement ring, gentlemen took a distance, and wedding ring, they took a distance. And dressing bougie, I don't get asked out as much as I used to. If I remove the rings, people will come. Male friends in the past have admitted they're with their, partner because it's free kitty, they need somewhere to empty their balls because they have 15 times our testosterone, right? When you really need to go to the washroom, it doesn't matter which washroom you go to. You'll even go to McDonald's if it's an emergency. But if you want to go to invest your money for a nice dinner, you will not spend your money at McDonald's. So her boyfriend uses her as a sperm bathroom, as a parking spot. Well, a parking spot for free kitty, free chef, free maid, and half the bills paid so he can save money to spend on his dream girl and marry her. A couple of my friends will use this parking spot, so after 5 years for one and 6 years for the other, when he found his dream girl, he kicked them out of the home and said it's over, and 6 months later, without even sleeping with this traditional religious girl, they got married, and he was an atheist. There's a human psychological principle that people don't value what's easy to get and value what's hard to get. Typical 50-50 lady with no self-awareness. I find it disturbing that someone who offers psychological services as an
Yes, the mental health program for ex-Muslims is available for ex-Muslims globally. We provide one-on-one counseling sessions with trained therapists who've worked with ex-Muslims for 12 sessions, and it's free for those who can't afford it. Yes, the mental health program
NGO, and as a leader of an NGO, at the same time shames women who disagree with their politics with that they need to seek help. Well, don't you offer psychological services? So why are you using psychology to shame people when you are the head of an NGO that offers psychological services? Shouldn't psychological services be a safe space and not an insult? These 50-50 feminists are so bitter about their situation that they lack any self-awareness. They're so upset that in spite all of their degrees and education, it doesn't translate into the personal life. They lack awareness of social contract, or pretend it does not exist. Whereas even radical feminist Andrea Dworkin said that, as backward as the conservative gentleman may be, the liberal gentleman offers women nothing at all. She is frustrated that her boyfriend deep down does not make her feel cherished, is not a provider, protector, nor commits. When I worked for the government, I didn't care what trolls on the internet said. Especially I worked for the parliament. Who cares? Especially who cares about the opinions of people on a reality TV show? So I do comment because I have a brand and controversy promotes me. But if I didn't have a brand and I was an employee, I wouldn't be engaging in fights about some dating show on Netflix and shaming people for their mental health if I headed a mental health NGO. When I disagree with a lady who's happy with her marriage, relationships, or her ability to get what she wants in a relationship, they don't try to insult me for days. I would have blocked her, but I was looking for content for this show. I thought, what an excellent example of how 50-50 feminism twists people out of character. Being 50-50, she sees herself as a victim, and that leads to being ex-Muslim. Remember what I said on social contracts? So, a former friend of mine, she became ex-Muslim. She used to be socially savvy and have all the suitors chase her, and she got the pick of the litter. But the problem was she's young, and of course she wanted someone exciting. And usually exciting also means abusive. I do mentor young gentlemen who come to me heartbroken and said, what did I do wrong? And I look at them and I ask, how old was she? Early 20s usually. And I said, you were being husband material with her? They said, yes. I said, that's the problem. You need to be boyfriend material and exciting, a little bad. But if you're nice husband material, these young girls don't get it. Nor did I get it, in my university days. What Zara criticizes as forced marriage accounts this phenomenon. Because if this girl, got pregnant from her boyfriend and they would stay together, eventually she would be divorced and a single mother. Her parents want to marry her off to someone who can be responsible for children produced from physical relations. Her parents invested time, money, effort, her mother birthed her, so on and so forth. So they want some reciprocity, and I do believe they're entitled to some reciprocity. Now, if you have empathy and see where people are coming from instead of judging them and calling them backward, then you can work with them. Girls I knew who moved in with their dusty boyfriend once they had to be struggling. When poverty enters the window, love runs out the door. All their emotions for this exciting young lad ran away and were gone when they had to struggle. Most Western women marry over excitement and then divorce over finances and initiate divorce. The Shafiqs who flirt with everyone and generate excitement are not the people you'd want to marry. And by staying with him and tolerating him, Dunya continues the cycle of single motherhood that she learned from her mother. Tradition isn't perfect, but there's a lot of wisdom in tradition and survival values. Freedom is not education when both Noor and Dunya are educated, but freedom comes from self-confidence, from self-love, from being disagreeable, and not being afraid to express yourself like Noor did, politely saying what you want, and not being afraid that it's not going to be the most popular thing. In the end, Noor waits and finds the gentleman for whom she is his cup of tea. And Noor will be happy having a relationship on her terms. Pick-me's who go out of their way to bash traditional ladies are miserable.